Okay. So, I don't think we have anything to add for right now. Is that fine? I think we got a pretty good thing on here. One note though, there are two cops standing right there, and they are probably listening to what we're saying. I don't know, maybe they're talking to each other, chit chat and things like that. But I just want to make that note, and I also want to make the note: we don't condone illegal actions here, and we operate entirely within legal means. Okay, now, so the first agenda item: do we stay or do we go? Should we start with a stack?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I will open up the stack. If you feel like you don't want to come up here, you can raise your hand and I will take note.
So where's stack at?
Right here.
All right.
And speak loud.
I guess I want to address the considerations of staying versus leaving as it affects anybody here who does not currently have another place to live. When I went over and talked to the people at Pacham, they were encouraging anybody who needs a place to go or thinks that they may eventually need a place to go this winter to go over and talk to them. By going over there, you don't make a commitment to anything, but I really do advise that people go over there and just talk to them and find out what your options are.
They're real nice.
I mean, you're not going to be coerced into anything. Just find out where you can go if you need a place to go. And honestly, like, if anybody here feels uncomfortable doing that or wants me to speak anonymously on their behalf or figure out information for them, I will be happy to assist with that. Just talk to me and I'll figure something out.
Well, I'm obviously going to be comfortable with whatever happens, whatever we decide, but I do pretty firmly believe that if folks are interested in civil disobedience or getting arrested, these are not things that we should take lightly, that I would much rather face arrest if it was stopping an eviction or getting a living wage or something like that. And I think, you know, as we move forward, we should be looking at those types of ways to engage in direct action and not use the space as the only real civil disobedience we engage in. So that's about it. I also think that the more of a pain in the ass we can make this for the city in the face of this, is the better. So coming up with ideas that are based on what we want to do and not what they tell us to do, and make it a pain in the ass for them, because it's a pain in the ass for us to have to move.
Yeah. Okay. Jessica has a comment to that?
Well, I think that we should move to a different location because there's so many places where we can make our point known. We don't really have to be here. There's so many different places we can go in Charlottesville where people can get the message.
So from my understanding yesterday, if we were to leave and occupy another city park, we still have to go through all of the permit processes, which to me doesn't seem worth it. If we're going to pick up and leave to do the city a favor, I think that they need to do us a favor in return. And for us to constantly be worrying about like the process of the permit, I feel like it's keeping us from getting a lot of things done. But at the same time, I'm not specifically tied to this place. And if people want to leave, I'm cool with that.
All right. Ness?
Yeah, personally, coming from someone that said, for a cause, I would be willing to possibly get arrested and participate in civil disobedience. Kind of, I think what Brandon was saying, like certain things that we could be civil disobedience with or whatever. I don't think that necessarily staying at this park, I guess we could possibly move, but a lot of people that I've been talking to through other occupations, Richmond, DC, a few guys in Georgia and stuff have basically all been talking, and it's all kind of been clicking that there may be a possible new transition or a next step. And I feel like if we're wasting a lot of time in the park feeling good about maybe cleaning up trash that's kind of wouldn't be here if we weren't here. No offense, guys. I mean, I love you guys, but we're kind of wasting time doing that rather than doing direct actions. So I feel like, just because we're not embodied in a park, we can do other things.
Yeah. I think the one big question is, whether or not to move. It comes down to whether or not we can end up in a better place. A week ago, when this decision was put off for a week, the General Assembly did say that for a place to be considered better, it would have the same or better traffic, both foot and vehicle. It would have the same or better access to public transit, and the same the same ability to habit it, and there's something else. But I mean, I just think that we should, really think about, the question is whether or not we end up better off after the move, and not whether or not it's easier on the city, because I think that should be a real low priority. And, I think it was pretty clear at the city council meeting last time that there is a lot of support for the idea that we do have the right to occupy. And I don't think Dave Norris has the votes at the city council to evict us from this park should we decide that there's not a better place to go.
So I'm torn. I was going to bring up the list of specific items we were looking at that would need to be as good or better. The ones that weren't mentioned were access to services and businesses that are important to us, which I think for me involves the walking distance to the local soup kitchens and homeless services and businesses nearby. And then the other consideration we decided we were coming up with was considering what the general use of the space was prior to the occupation. So a lot of what we heard is, this park was used and now it's not used because people don't want to come here, which I think was our one concession to the considerations being brought up. And as I've been thinking it over the last week, I don't know that there are other spots that fit all of those criteria as well as this park does. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I know that if we try to stay here and we're not sort of all committed to that, we're just going to get evicted. So I feel really torn, but I do think that this is probably one of the best spots we're going to have in the city. And so I don't really know what to do with that, but I just offer it.
Well, you can take my comment with a grain of salt. I've not been sleeping here, and I'm facing a trial in D.C. for speaking in a Senate hearing, so I'm more reluctant to risk arrest than usual. But in D.C. they told us our permit had run out, and we told them the First Amendment was our permit and it doesn't run out. And the Park Service said, well, we really want you to permit, we'll give you a new permit. I think that regardless of what's happened on the ground here in building community and helping individuals, this occupation has helped bring a message into conversations in this area of the country that could be greatly helped by showing a lot of backbone right now. And the First Amendment does not have an expiration date. It is not supposed to be limited. It says Congress shall make no law, not a particular kind of law, no law restricting our rights to do what is being done right here. And usually there are warnings, there are levels of resistance people can put up. Some people can walk away after a warning. But I think even if a better place were identified, there's a huge value to refusing to be kicked out. And it can be used to put a message into the news, into the conversations in this town about the inequality, about the issues that started this movement. It's not going to be just about the park. The park is the means to that end.
So I cut off Stack after David because I want to get a temperature check right now on going to to another park, whatever that may be, or staying here in Lee Park after tomorrow. So, I guess it only needs to be one temperature check. So there's 2 options. So go do this if you feel like you want the best strategy right now for this movement is to stay at this park and do this, or do this if you feel like the best strategy is to move to another park. And you can choose how you want to be in that spectrum. So go ahead. I just want to see where people stand right now.
Wait, say it again. Repeat.
Okay.
So long. Just repeat what the finger thing is.
Do this if you feel the best strategic decision is to stay at this park after tomorrow, and then do this if you feel like no.
Are you doing the negative side? You want to stay here or go?
Yeah, I got you. Or in between.
No. You can be anywhere on that spectrum.
Yeah, you can be anywhere on the spectrum. Man, I see a lot of in betweens. This is okay.
I think like you could just.
Okay.
This is gonna be YouTube.
All right, so I see mostly in betweens, which to me means that we need more discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna open the stack back up. Lionel was here when I first set out of the stack, so you go ahead.
Honestly, I think we deserve the right to occupy this space as anybody does for the right to assembly, for the right to speech. I think generally we've changed direction in our occupation to how we can stay in this park. Inevitably, we all know that if they want us to get out, they can remove us. This is not what occupation is about to me. Occupation is about getting what we want done. If they don't want us here, we can't stay. Period. Like, we can't. And if you choose to get arrested, I just want to ask you how you're going to accomplish your goals in jail or with fines. If you don't have a job, you do have a small job that pays minimum wage, how are you going to exist when you have to pay fines? It's like, we need things to get done, and I don't believe it's to stay here in this park.
I think there are lots of good arguments for both options. There are lots of good options for lots of good reasons for staying as well as not staying. I was laying in bed last night. I was thinking about it, and it came to me that there's a spot right over the Belmont Bridge where I'm sorry.
It's a pretty bright light.
It's a very bright light in my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Where the old Better Living building used to be, that has been torn down. It's an open field. I went over and talked to my friend Skip Willis, who lives right near there, and we were talking, and he suggested the field next to Friendship Court as a possibility. And I'm not sure what the status of that is. Pardon? Yeah.
Where are we at? Okay.
That would fall under another agenda item, wouldn't it?
The location?
Yeah,
well,
we're talking about location there.
Okay, fair enough. What I'm trying to say is there. I'll back off. I was just going to say there are good things on both sides.
So I'd like to say that I think my personal opinion is I think we should stay and try to make this work. I thought that in general the city council was pretty positive, and I think that if we move, then the problems that we have here will just take to there. I think we should try to be considerate of our neighbors and maybe leave some of the park as public space instead of being scattered all over the place. I think if we clean it up a little bit and address some of those issues, then anywhere we go, if we don't deal with those issues, we're going to have that same problem. I think we should stay here where we are, where we have all these really good things around us, and try to figure out a way to do it right.
Well, I'm speaking as one of those in-between people, and I think I could go either way. But in order to go to moving, I would need to hear us agree that we found a place which is just as good as this, and for some other reasons it might even be better, and that would make me, get out of the in-between position. So I I don't know if we need to go. Maybe we can't decide this without going ahead to selecting another place. Maybe some people feel like that needs to be done first.
It seems to me that this is sort of an airing of stay, go, stay, go, stay, go before we get to I take the point process. Before we get to the particulars of let's go to point X.
Right, okay, so I want to say maybe we can't really finish deciding this without moving to the next item. I don't know, that's just a possibility.
Okay, we all agree on it, so everyone deserves the right to speak on it.
What is the stack topic?
I don't think it's unreasonable to ask the police officers to leave. Their presence here right now is inconsistent with what we have been doing, what we're doing now, and what we want to do in the future. Now, if this became a lesson in transparency and openness in government, so that the city council were as open as this body were, so that the police department were as open as this body were, then I think it would be fine for the police department to be here. But if the police department wants to take the position that, like some other government agencies, they operate in secrecy and can spy on the rest of us, I don't think they belong here because their presence is inconsistent with our expression of free speech here.
Woo! This is kind of off topic, but I want to take that as a proposal. Do we want to ask the cops here to leave? Do we have, so if,
We got 2 blocks over here.
2 blocks? Okay, what are the blocks?
Right here.
Why? Yeah, why?
The officers have a right to be here just as we do. This is a public park. I have the same block.
Okay.
I'll add my voice to that.
Okay.
And there is something else. We can actually show an example of openness and transparency. We can always show an example of openness and transparency.
Sarah, you have a point? Okay.
Response?
Yeah.
Can we ask if anyone is made uncomfortable, if anyone is speaking differently than they would otherwise because of the police officers being there?
I blocked and I'm for that. I feel uncomfortable. This is fear-mongering right now.
You're for what?
They're making people feel like they can't discuss the topics that we want to discuss. I agree with that. As I oppose, though, that we can't ask them to leave because they can't ask us to leave right now.
All right, we have a comment from Korea.
I don't know because the guy with the helmet, Officer Cole, he's kind of a nice guy, so I don't know if he would try to pull anything.
It's about the establishment, bro.
So,
about him being a nice guy.
I honestly don't want to.
What a process.
Yeah.
What are we doing right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not. Doesn't.
Okay. Yeah. This is honestly going to take so long, but I